Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Annis, and I'm an advocate at the CARE office. During this presentation, we are going to be talking about professional boundaries, what they are, and why we need them. We'll be focusing on a few different types of relationships that you might experience as a graduate student, whether that is student to faculty, student to teacher's assistant, graduate assistant to faculty, research assistant to faculty, supervisor to supervisee relationships, amongst others. To get us started, I would like each of you to pull out a piece of paper and write down how you would define professional boundaries. And while you do this, I'm going to give a brief overview of the CARE office. CARE is the on-campus resource for students, faculty, and staff who have been impacted by interpersonal violence. Interpersonal violence is an umbrella term that includes sexual assault, relationship abuse, stalking, and harassment. There's two sides to our office: prevention and education, as well as advocacy and response. The prevention and education side has an array of presentations that raise awareness of our issues, such as this one. We talk to folks about consent, dynamics of healthy and unhealthy relationships, bystander intervention, and boundary setting, amongst others. In addition, we also have two full-time victim advocates, which comprise our advocacy and response side of this office. As an advocate, I can help provide confidential support services and accompaniment to those that have been impacted by interpersonal violence. I do like to say folks that have been impacted, and that includes survivors and victims themselves, and it also includes their friends and family as well. We are located on the second floor of DeFallo Hall, right across from the Student Health Center, and you can contact our office via our phone, our crisis line, our email, and even our social media. Now let's go back to your definition. How did you define professional boundaries? How can you tell when someone has good professional boundaries? How does that feel? And how do you know when your boundaries have maybe been violated? When talking about professional boundaries in the field of helping others, we would define them as a set of guidelines, expectations, formal and informal rules that set ethical standards and practical standards in a work environment. I want to repeat that one more time just so that it sinks in. It is a set of guidelines, expectations, formal and informal rules that set ethical standards and practical standards in a work environment. Professional boundaries set limits for safe, acceptable, and effective behaviors. You can see how this would be important within your role as a student, a graduate assistant, or a research assistant. A good exercise is to think about someone in a professional or authority position that you have worked with in the past, that you had a positive experience with. Think about how they treated you. You probably felt respected by them. And they maybe helped you enjoy your experience even more because you felt safe and comfortable in your role as well. It is especially important to talk about boundaries in the context of these relationships because there is an inherent power difference based on the roles that people play in those relationships. And as is true with any relationship, when there is a power differential, it is easy to abuse or misuse that power, even when it's maybe not someone's intention to do so. Think about some examples that you have seen or heard about in your life. Perhaps a supervisor asks a supervisee on a date, or a professor asks their student to pet sit for them while they're away on vacation. While these examples might not seem or feel hurtful to the recipient at first glance, the power differential in those relationships could impact how the person is feeling in regards to the control that they have, and they might not feel that they could say no. So whenever we are in a position of power, we need to be mindful of how that power can influence our interactions with others. Sometimes the abuse of that power can go as far as being considered harassment. So let's talk about what harassment is. Harassment is a form of discrimination or unwelcome conduct based on race, color, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, age, and disability, amongst other things. You can see that there are ways that privilege plays out in our society based on these cultural categories or identities. And there is an inherent power difference in privilege that maybe some groups have that others don't. And that same dynamic happens with research assistants, graduate assistants, and students. So let's talk about when harassment becomes sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is any unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature. So that includes, but is not limited to, unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or nonverbal physical conduct of a sexual nature. These behaviors could occur in a singular incident, or it could be persistent behaviors that continuously occur over time. Keep in mind that the person that is receiving the attention is the person that defines if something is harassment. And it can be hard to determine what is unwelcomed. So this means that the person in power has a responsibility to pay attention and ensure that the environment is safe for everyone. So let's talk about the different types of harassment. Harassment can be broken into two categories: quid pro quo or a hostile environment. Quid pro quo is an exchange. So this is when someone asks someone to do something in exchange for something else. An example of this could be a faculty member asks their graduate assistant to go on a date in exchange for a letter of recommendation. This is the mentality of, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. The second category is hostile environment. And this is the result of harassment that is so severe or pervasive that the entire environment becomes uncomfortable, tense, or stressful. Now that we've talked about what harassment is and what sexual harassment is, let's talk about what that might look like. So some inappropriate behaviors could include offensive jokes, slurs or degrading comments, inappropriate comments about someone's appearance or attractiveness, asking someone about or discussing someone's personal or sex life, cornering someone into a small space, or invading someone's personal space, giving unwanted gifts, whether that is in a sexual or a romantic gesture, intimidation or threats, as well as other forms of sexual assault. So this could include non-consensual touching, sexual coercion. It could also include requests for sexual favors. It could include butt slapping. It could include the display of sexual images. And so this entails a lot of different types of behaviors. The items on this list may or may not be considered harassment or sexual harassment to some. But either way, they are inconsistent with professional boundaries, and they can have a negative impact on others. So now that we understand the definition of harassment and sexual harassment, we need to understand how power differentials can play out badly. And so the next question that we need to consider is, how do we know if someone is uncomfortable? How do we know that someone is uncomfortable with our behavior and maybe something that we have said? So it's important for us to make sure that we're paying attention to people's nonverbal and verbal cues. Some cues that express that someone is comfortable include someone is making agreeing statements. They're smiling, they are nodding, they are making statements that show appreciation. Or maybe they're asking additional questions and actively seeking out continued conversations. Some cues that express that someone is uncomfortable might include someone saying, I'm not sure, Maybe they have difficulty with cohesive speech. Maybe they're stuttering or hesitating. Maybe someone's laughing nervously or avoiding eye contact. Maybe they're fidgeting. Maybe they're trying to increase the space or backing away from a specific person. Or maybe they're flat out avoiding the other person. Ideally, we would like for people to be able to verbalize when they are uncomfortable and speak up, but sometimes that doesn't feel safe due to the situation at hand, or because of the way that we're socialized, or because of someone's past experiences. So we recognize that reality is that more people often than not show their discomfort in those nonverbal ways. So what do you do if you see someone responding in an uncomfortable way? There are a few things and a few steps that you can do. The first is to stop what you're doing immediately and check in with the other person. They may not feel comfortable telling you directly what's happening, but they are much more likely to if they are asked directly. The second is to apologize. It's easy for us to get offended and defensive, and that could prevent us from communicating with people effectively. But I think it's important to remember that sometimes people are responding badly based on maybe reasons that have nothing to do with you. The third is to acknowledge the harm that you have caused, regardless of your intent. While you can express your intention to give the person an idea of your perspective and where you're coming from, this does not negate the impact, and it also does not excuse your behavior. It's important to own your behavior and take responsibility for the impact that your behavior has had on someone else. And the final step is to actively change your behavior and make necessary adjustments. It can be helpful to let the person know what those changes will be, and maybe even asking them for feedback. And if they're comfortable, hopefully they'll give you some suggestions. Now, what do you do if you are the person that is experiencing harassment? There are a few things that I think can be helpful. The first is saying something to the offender, but only if that feels comfortable to you. The next is that you may want to remove yourself from the situation at hand. You could contact a trusted supervisor, or you could even contact and consult with a care advocate. We're always available to talk with individuals through hard or difficult situations and helping them figure out their available resources and options. But no matter who your person might be, I do think that it's important to reach out and get that support, because no one should have to go through situations such as these alone. So let's talk about how to avoid inappropriate behaviors and how to keep our relationships professional. So here are a few tips. Establish and verbalize clear boundaries based on mutual respect. Meeting in public spaces during business hours, if that's possible. And if meetings cannot happen in a regular 8 to 5 business day, try and schedule them for light hours at least. In all ways, work to generate a space that encourages open and honest communication as well as feedback. It's important to try and keep conversations mostly professional and not personal, and definitely not in a sexual nature. If you think that a faculty member or a student is developing feelings, consult with someone right away. Be mindful of the power dynamic and differential at all times. Pay close attention to verbal and nonverbal cues, and ultimately listen to your gut. Our gut feeling gives us some really helpful information, even when we're not really certain where that information might be coming from. So I think that it's important to reiterate that care advocates can consult with students, staff, and faculty that may have questions about possible harassment or maybe difficult or uncomfortable situations. At CARE, we're available to provide support services to those that have been impacted by interpersonal violence. And again, that is a sexual assault, relationship abuse, stalking, or harassment. And keep in mind that we're also there for the support people as well, such as family, friends, roommates. We want to let you know what advocacy services are available, even if maybe not all of these apply to situations such as harassment. So we do have a 24-hour crisis hotline. We also do consultations with folks to explore different resources that are both available on campus as well as off campus. We offer safety planning to make sure that people are feeling both physically and emotionally safe in upcoming situations. We can also accompany students or anyone really to medical appointments. That could include a SANE exam, also known as a rape kit. And we can also accompany folks to the Student Health Center to get preventative medications for STI or pregnancy. We can also help folks with the legal process, such as filing for a police report, maybe applying for a protective order, and helping someone by assisting them in court. We can help people get connected to other resources as needed, and help them feel as safe as possible after a difficult or traumatic situation has occurred. We also want you to know that CARE is not the only resource and office that cares about these issues. UNCW as a whole takes these issues of interpersonal violence pretty seriously. And so our campus has two policies, the gender-based and sexual misconduct policy, as well as the Title IX grievance policy. And both of these policies address victimization and support survivors of violence. Because we have these two policies in place, all faculty, staff, and RAs are required to report and notify the Title IX office if they hear reports of interpersonal violence occurring. So if you share your story or someone else's story about interpersonal violence, the campus will be put on notice. And then you'll be contacted by the director of Title IX, as well as CARE for support and resources that are available. I like to inform people that both Title IX and CARE are voluntary, so students have the option to determine if that's something that they are interested in seeking services from. I also want you to know that we have 3 confidential offices, meaning that whatever is shared in that space stays in that space. And that includes my office, the CARE office, the Counseling Center, and the Student Health Center. And all 3 of those offices are located on the 2nd floor of DePaulo Hall. As we wrap up, I also want to mention that CARE is not the only place that is available for support. And so I kind of want you all to know of other resources that are available to you as well. So that includes your faculty lab coordinator, for teachers assistants, for research assistants, that could be your principal investigator. You also have the department chair, Heather Koopman. You also have a graduate coordinator, Stephanie Camel, as well as the graduate assistant, or excuse me, the graduate admin, Lisa Noah. And then there's also the SANE committee, and they encourage students to submit anonymous cards or comment cards if they feel comfortable doing so. I also think that it's important to acknowledge that there are other resources, including the CARE office, the Office of Title IX Query Compliance, Human Resources, as well as the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And I know that both of those last 2 slides have a lot of information and contact information. I'll make sure that this PowerPoint is sent over to Lisa so that she can distribute this to you all as well. And that wraps up this presentation today. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you were able to learn something and take away some information. Please note that if there is ever anything that you need, the CARE office is available. And again, here's all of our contact information and ways that you can get a hold of us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. If not, I hope that you all have a wonderful semester. Thanks.